would I say, presentation now, right? Enoverlab is a product management institute that provides in-depth training and mentorship to aspiring product managers with a structured training approach and detailed syllabus. Our students are groomed with knowledge, skills, and tools to build, manage, and innovate products that will deliver increasing value to users while also driving business value for organization. And of course, our mission is to empower product talent for today, tomorrow, and the future. So Tomisin will be taking us on this interesting topic, right? How to lead a development team as a new product manager if you don't want to chop breakfast, right? So, Tomisin is a PM that has worked with several cross-functional teams to create user-centered web and mobile applications within the spheres of payments, learning, and social infrastructure. Um, she displays ownership, collaboration, and communication, which are key qualities to deliver in a role as a PM. Hi, Tomisi, once again. Good evening. You have the floor. Let's have you.
Okay, hi everyone. Good evening. My name is Tomisin. Thanks for the introduction, blessing. I'll turn on my camera. But in case you can't hear me, please call my attention. I'll take questions after. My presentation will be say for like 15-20 minutes. Then I will take all the questions that you have. Once you can see my screen, please let me know. Oops. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So today we'll be talking about how to lead a new development team as a development team as a new product manager. My name is Tomisin Agbaje, and I'm just going to talk about the agenda, briefly introduce myself, and I will tell you a brief story before I continue my presentation. So the things we'll be touching on today will be the intro, structure of product teams, what the role of a PM is in a development team. If you're forming a new team, what are the things that you need to put in mind? Recipe for great teams and what's doing conflict. And I typically put conflict here because a lot of people think that when you're working or when you're in a development team, like you won't have conflicts. Like it's normal to have conflicts. What matters and what boosts your collaboration is how you actually handle the conflict and what you do in this case. And the next part will be questions and answers. So again, I'm Tomisin. I've worked in different teams for 3 years in different industries, ranging from FMCG, business to government, HR tech, and now fintech. And before I was a product manager, I used to work as a product specialist. I did a brief stuff stint as a data analyst, and I enjoy watching movies and sleeping. So that's it about me. So for my story, right? So sometime in say 2019, I newly transitioned into the role of a product manager, right? So before that time, I've worked with like different product managers, helping them just drafting documents for them, doing trainings, but never really in that key role as a product manager. So me, joining the now becoming a product manager, there were like a lot of things for me to learn, a lot of things for me to do. And I don't know, but for me as a person, once I'm in a new team, I want people to know that yes, I'm there and I'm making value wherever I'm giving value wherever I am. And out of I think I was in a team of 8. They were all senior engineers. I was the only girl. And I was very, very at first I was taken aback because I'm like, oh my God, these guys have been working together for a while. They're senior engineers. What do I do? And during my first 3 months as a product manager, I had to deliver an additional feature to the product I was managing. And this is what happened. I'd already written the product requirement doc, the user story. I'd shared with everyone. I started a sprint. I'd communicated to everybody what they needed to do. And, they were telling me, yes, we're on it, we're doing it, we're doing it, we're doing it. Like, and, like, that was like one of my first tasks as a product manager. And for me, it was important that it went really well. And like this was like for 3 weeks of, okay, guys, what's up? How is it going? Is it going well? Can I test? Blah, 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 blah. And the demo day came for me to now show what my developers have been doing. And then I started sharing my screen. And guess what? Nothing worked. Like nothing was working at all. And for me, like it was really bad because I was like, how can I like be on this guy's neck and this thing wouldn't work and stuff like that. So I was really, really upset. I was crying. And I was angry at the developers because I was like, you guys, I told you what to do. I wrote the requirement doc. So what's the problem? And this was the funny part for me. Something that had taken them 3 weeks to do, in less than an hour, they fixed the entire thing. So I was very confused that like it took you guys 3 weeks to deliver on this particular feature. So why is it that like after the demo, you guys felt bad because you had seen me crying and then you fixed everything in less than an hour? So now basically my talk or what I'm going to be talking about today is going to be towards that direction. I don't know if anybody has been in that situation, but it's not a really good situation for anybody to be as a product manager. And that's why I'm starting my opening remark. Great products aren't built in isolation and definitely not alone by the product manager. You would say that a lot of teams and a lot of companies that are now, seeing the need for product managers, meaning that, you can't say you have the head of engineering, be the product manager. You can't do those two things, sorry, at the same time. And simply because the role of a product manager is not that it's not specialized, but you need someone to be able to effectively manage and not always tell people how to write their code. All you need to do is share a vision for them and let them work towards that vision. So I would say you should picture it this way. Product managers lay the foundation, right? And the development team would now construct what that building would look like. So laying the foundation in the sense that you are communicating, you're providing them with the right information that they need to build that product. That is like your primary role as a product manager. And you would see that a lot of the times you're not really productive sometimes until like the development part. And that's if you're leading the development team, right? You're not really productive until the engineer has done their part, the designers have done their part. So typically, product is not a lone job. It's something that you accomplish with everybody. So if the product fails, and in this case, let me use the demo I done for the first time. If it fails, it's not on you alone. It's on you and your engineering team, right? If you succeed, it's you and your engineering team. So everything in product is shared. Do you understand? That's the first part. And for people that are looking to transition into product and for people that are already in product, different product teams and development teams are structured differently. But primarily, this is what it looks like. It looks like a front-end engineer. That's the person that builds out the design. So there's a designer first. The designer is the one that determines the look and feel of the product, what the interactions would be like. And typically, the designer, sometimes referred to as a UI UX designer, works closely with the product manager to understand the users. Like that's how it works. So now the front-end engineer translates that design into code for people to use, because that design is typically useless until people can see it and can use it. And then there's a back-end engineer. The back-end engineers are the ones that determine the logic for how the product works. So it's not just about the front. There's also like a back-end engineering to it. And then there are user researchers, right? Because you need to continually talk to your users to see how the product is being used, what the problem is, and how like you can actively improve. And then you have QA engineers. QA engineers are also quality assurance engineers. So you need to be testing what these people have done. So if your front-end engineer has done something, your back-end engineer has done something, the QA engineer needs to see that, okay, actually fits what into the requirement that you as a product manager have drawn. And then you have the DevOps team. Now, the DevOps team handles things that deals with infrastructure. So say, oh, we want to deploy to production. It's on one server. The server is up, the server is down. That's the DevOps. That's the job of the DevOps team, right? But then again, I need to also emphasize that in different teams, like it's not always like this. Some teams are slimmer, some things are more robust, right? And in some teams, you find that some people are doing other people's job. So sometimes you see that the product manager also doubles as a QA person. Even naturally, you already double as a QA person because you always need to check that what the developers have built is up to the standard that you have defined. Do you get? So now you also find the designer performing the role of a UX or user researcher. You can find the QA person being the DevOps person. You can find backend doing the role of DevOps. These things happen. So it just depends on the company you are in, the amount of money that they have. If it's a startup, it's most likely going to be a leaner team, right? And basically, it's just different. So there's no one perfect way to define teams. It just depends on where you are and the amount of money that they have to hire people. So now, basically, what's the role of a PM in a product development team? The first thing you need to know is that your role as a PM is a strategic one. And basically, you are painting and sharing the vision of the company with the development teams. And this is one thing that I would say is a hack for product managers, right? And if you want to lead product teams efficiently and maybe as Blessing would say, avoid breakfast, is that people buying into the vision of what you're trying to build helps them be more committed into what they're doing. People should not just, your developers, your designers, and your QA engineers, DevOps should not just, think that they are writing code. They are not just writing code. You are trying to change someone's life. If, for example, you're building a CUDA, or you're building an AO, or you're building a piggyverse, you know that your code is very important, meaning that if someone's money gets missing, you need to know that every piece of code that you write is towards a vision. So everybody needs to understand that there's a shared vision, and whatever I'm doing, I'm contributing to that. It makes people more driven and more committed to the fact that, oh, I'm doing something. I'm not just writing code. I'm very, very important to this team. So as a product manager, you need to make sure that that vision is shared and people are actually buying and aligning into it. The second part is that you're breaking your vision into actionable items, and actionable items could differ, right? It means that now we have, say, we want to onboard people, or we want to solve what's it called, financial inclusion. And what does financial inclusion mean in this case? So let's say we want to build a piggyverse. It means that you, as a product manager, right, you have to write the user stories, you have to do research, you have to ensure that people are aligned, backlog refinement. It goes down to scrum ceremonies, saying that you want to do stand-ups, you're doing sprint retro, everything. Like, it means that, like, from that, oh, we want financial inclusion, every single thing on that is going to mean you're delivering financial inclusion. You're breaking it down to actionable items is your job as a product manager, because now, it's one thing to have a vision, it's a different thing for you to now work towards that vision. That's your role as a product manager. And the third part is you define what success looks like. What does success look like for your development team? What does success look like for your product? So it means that, does that mean that we need to finish everything in our entire backlog? Does that mean that we need X number of users and stuff like that? What can we do for X number of users to use our products? Like, these are the things that you need to think about. So that was what I would say that is the role of a product manager. So now I'm going to talk about forming a new team. And I'm talking about this because in different companies, I would say, for example, startups, right? Because most startups are having more product managers, right? You might be responsible for forming how your product team looks like, what your development team looks like. And, again, as I said, the role of product is not only for the product manager, it's for the engineers, it's for the designers, it's for everybody. And that's why I put here that together everybody achieves more. So the product manager is happy, the company is happy, everybody's happy, right? And so if you're building a product team, you need to build for diversity, right? You need to build for ownership. People need to take responsibility for the roles that they are in, right? And they're different parallel roles. You also need to be able to scale, meaning that, like, you have to put in processes. So even if engineer A comes today, we're adding 3 more engineers, the team is able to move off from the existing structure seamlessly. So it's not as if it's going to break the workflow and say, oh, now we have more engineers, this has to change, that has to change. Building that process from the ground up is very, very important. All right, I have what's it called, ownership twice. And now this is one of the things that you need to have in mind, building and working as a product manager, like with development teams. The best way to deal with engineers is communication. either written communication, verbal communication, any type of communication. This is what build great teams. That is like what I have to say. Because even if like you call engineer A is not responding, you call engineer B, like you need to communicate, right? And the difference with that you can communicate, you can communicate async, that's maybe offline, online. You need to just continue communicating. Your role as a product manager is basically ed on that communication. You need to constantly communicate, right? And communication basically helps you build context and have a shared understanding. And initially, I spoke about having a shared vision, right? So you need to communicate with your engineers. This is what we want to achieve. This is what we want to do, and help them build understanding. And communication now is not only you're telling them this is what we need to build. There needs to be supporting documentation, meaning that every time that you're writing something, it needs to be very clear that even if someone in another team comes, they're able to understand what you've said without coming to ask you for explanation. That is what great communication looks like. So it's like, oh, hi, Blessing. I'm new on your product development team. Blessing does the entire introduction, onboarding, and everything, and Blessing provides the documentation. And this person should be able to understand what the documentation is before they come in to meet you. Sometimes, right, having great nicely written product requirement docs, saves you problem, saves the engineering team building rubbish, saves you the back and forth of people saying they have blockers, they don't understand what, and then they build something and you're like, oh, this is missing. You could have added that to the product documentation. Why is it not there? Stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that like communication just solves, right? And there's always a consequence for bad communication. Bad communication equals bad team. And people will begin to think that everybody is in a competition. So somebody will have information, and that person will not have. Now they're going to be hiding information because it is like first to finish. This is what it looks like. And product teams should not be like that, because that means your performance will be low. So if, for example, person A is close to, say, the product manager, person B is not close to the product manager. Now the information that everybody's supposed to have, person A has it and person B doesn't have it. Now person A feels like he's in competition with person B, and then he has to be like, oh, first to finish, the best, and everything. And it shouldn't be like that. People should be able to collaborate easily, right? The second part is the sense of foreboding. Now, foreboding here, means anxiety. When you don't communicate clearly, people are anxious because you don't know what their deliverables are, right? And I'm saying this as well because sometimes when we say that we're developers are giving breakfast, sometimes the blame is also on the product manager, and sometimes it's on the developers, right? That's why I'm also sharing this. So you communicating clearly and you passing across the right information, it helps people be more relaxed, right? When you're not sharing information, you're not communicating clearly, people are anxious, they don't know what to do, they don't know what's required of them, right? There is no feedback. And if you're not communicating well, the way product teams work is iterative, meaning that each point, you have like an iterative feedback loop. You keep, coming back, okay, this doesn't look good, do this better, we can be better at this, that kind of stuff. So like, if there's no communication, there's little to no channel of feedback, right? You need to give people credit for the work that they're doing. And this thing is very, very important. It's as simple as telling your backend engineer, thank you. If you tell people thank you and I appreciate you, for some very weird reason, it sounds like it's just thank you. Sometimes like it makes their day and improves the amount of effort they put into the work that you want to do, because they know that you see them and you appreciate them for the work that they do, right? So you give people credit. If you're not communicating, how would you give people credit? Do you get? There's no guidance and direction. It leaves room for ambiguity. So there are sometimes that there's something that you should have said, giving some feedback. But if like nobody's communicating, engineers are bad at communication, product manager is bad at communication, then how would you work? So like the entire team is already sort of heading towards doom, right? And I'll tell, and again, right, this is why like you need to have great communication, and this is what it does for you, right? So it boosts your collaboration in a team where like we're able to talk about anything, we're able to like we have like a shared understanding of the vision and what we want to achieve as a team, right? We're able to collaborate effectively. So it's like, oh, sorry, come to my team and say, oh, you guys, we need to build we need to build a wallet. And then I tell them, okay, this is what it should look like. It should look like. Then engineer A is like, I think that will work. What if we did it this way? Engineer B will say, okay, this is the downside of what we're doing. Then designer will say, oh, the experience is going to be bad. So in that way, you already have a feel that collaboration is better because people are eager and they're excited to work because they feel carried along and everything is shared, right? Again, great communication here means that successes are celebrated. So it means that when you communicate well, it's not only the product manager. The truth is like half the effort or the glory of the team doesn't belong to the product manager. It also belongs to the developers because they helped achieve that result. So everybody feels like, yes, we achieved this together. And again, this is one thing that when you're motivating or speaking to engineers, you let them know if we do good, it's everybody. If we fail, we fail together. There's no it's back-end engineer A, it's back-end engineer B, or it's front-end engineer, it's design. It's everybody. Design can't say, oh, I have finished my work. You have not finished your work until the entire product is built and we're in the market. So meaning that designer would now be nudging, oh, front-end engineer, this is not how this is supposed to look like. Oh, have you guys done this? Everybody's eager and excited because we're celebrating our successes and we're celebrating our failures, right? People are eager to share knowledge. We're able to share feedback. Oh, this design, why does this button look like this? The button should be blue. It should actually have white text instead of black text. And it drives performance, Everybody is excited. We want to work and say that, yes, I'm doing this. I'm working for this company. And you see that for some people that stay in companies longer, right, both for product managers and engineers, is because they enjoy the work that they do. And this can only come when there's a shared vision and everybody's communicating well and you're able to collaborate well. And I'm speaking again from my experience. That's what has worked for me and my team. And why is it good for you as a product manager? And whether you like it or not, right? You have some sort of fulfillment when your product is actually live, right? And it means that you need to empower your engineers and designers to communicate better, right? So it's either you're setting them up for success or you're setting them up for failure. By providing them the documents that they need is good for you. If everybody is communicating and like your work is just better because person A is communicating, oh bro, this is what's happening, this is what I need for my work to be done and everything, right? People are able to say this is their roadblock, these are the blockers that they're having, and then you're able to clear it on time. And even sometimes you don't even have to be there for your team to function. It sounds like a counterintuitive advice, but that's what works. Your team should not only be able to function when you are there, right? They need to also be able to function when you are not there. Like it's really, really important. It's not as if, oh, Blessing is out of work or Blessing is sick today. And the product team is now waiting for Blessing to come back for them to be able to work. That is very, very bad. Like if you're for anything, like everybody should have that shared, everybody should have that information that they need so that even if Blessing is not around and developer A needs feedback or wants to do something better, they can always go and meet developer B. Do you understand? Like Blessing does not always have to be around for people to function. Do you get? So basically, it's a cross-functional team, whether Blessing is there or Blessing is not there. Blessing just holds everybody accountable. And again, it improves performance. If everybody is working well, we're able to ship that product as soon as possible. Company is happy, product manager is happy, user is happy, everybody's happy, everybody goes home win-win. That's why I would say it's very, very important. Now, how can you set up your team for greatness? In this case, avoiding breakfast. The first thing I'll say is seek to understand and be understood. Now, it means that you're not trying to be right. You can't always be right. You can't have the best ideas. You can't know it all. That's just your role as a product manager. Your job is to listen to people and you need to aim for people to understand you, not try. You need to aim for people to understand what you're saying. And if they don't understand, they need to be able to speak to you freely and then for you to be understood. Second thing I would say is you need to actively listen. You're not in that conversation, or you're not speaking to somebody because you want to reply them. That's not why you are there, right? You are there to be able to exchange information and understand where that person is coming from. Just a second, please. Okay, so second thing that I would say is you need to understand your team. Every team functions differently, and this one would really, really help you and save you a lot of headache, right? In this case, right, if you know your team better, so somebody spoke about how like we're trying to reach engineer A, and engineer A doesn't come to the office maybe except once, right? And engineer A does not reply messages or something. There are engineers like that, and trust me, it's very frustrating. It's not on you, right? But then at the same time, if you understood this person and you knew how this person functions, right, you're able to set your expectations based on that. I'll give an example. I work in a team of I think 8 and 9, right? There's this person that works at night. That's how the person works. So it means that for every deliverable that you want, you need to ask him the questions and whatever feedback you need to get very early in the morning, because once it's around 11, 12, the person is going to go to bed, and in the evening he's going to wake up again and start working. People are weird. Engineers are weird. There's this person that probably schools abroad, right? So meaning that at so and so time the person will be available. There's this third person that needs to be handheld when they're trying to deliver a task. So meaning even if you had a group meeting to explain what the task is, this person, you need to call them after and explain and ask them, okay, what do you understand by this? Like different people work differently. There's another person where before the person commits their code to staging, right? You need to ask them, you need to be on a call and say, oh, this color is not like this is not the font. Like those are the things that, so people work differently. So you need to understand your team dynamics and your team norms. I would also say that you should get to know your team in and out of work. And this helps you build a relationship with people. It's easier for you to work with people when you know them. And I'm not saying that everybody should be your friend. You're not here to play, we're here to work, right? But when when you know them, right, they're able to go out of their way because now you understand them out of work. So even when somebody has anxiety or a person is depressed, you understand how that's going to affect the quality of their work. So you can manage them in a different way. So you should know your team in and out of work. I'm not saying you should be best friends, but you should have a cordial relationship. It's very, very important. I would say that it has worked for me. I've not had an engineer where don't like me. I'm going to make sure that you like me by force. Like that's just it. Or if you said you don't want to like me, and that's cool, right? But I'm going to make sure we are cordial such that when we're having a conversation, you don't think I'm against you. And I don't think I'm against you. So again, I was saying to understand your sorry. I'll say you should understand your team dynamics, the ceremonies. Some people like doing sprints every day. You get on a call, give your feedback. Some people just prefer writing it, know what works for you and how you want to do that. Second part is like receiving your feedback. Some people just prefer when you've written the feedback, right? Some people prefer when you record videos, right? And then you send it back to them. What are the roles and responsibilities? And again, I would say that it's very important for you to be close to the head of engineering in your team or the lead developer, because when developers are lying to you, this person is going to be your source of truth, right? The person will say no. So if, for example, I've said, let's build out this signing functionality, and then the person tells me to take 2 weeks, right? And I'm like, 2 weeks call, like how will you do with 2 weeks now? It's not that simple. And one thing you should never tell developers is that maybe it's just to write. Don't make that mistake. Do you get? So it's like, oh no, now, but it doesn't take that long. And then you speak with your lead developer. Lead developer says, guy, like it's just to do this, do that, right? Developer knows the work more than you do. You need to trust people to do their work to the best of their ability. You're not there to micromanage anybody, right? And the person says, okay, this thing should not take you more than 2 hours. and then now you've already told me 3 weeks, meaning that you've lied to me. Developers tend to lie a lot. So when you ask questions, you know who is lying and who is not. Right? And I just explained that. So you need to learn to ask questions. Don't take things at surface level. When they tell you something, even if you seem to understand, ask questions. When you ask questions, they're able to explain more, they're able to understand better. Um, I've said this also, establish the team to function without you. I, for example, don't have to be my team for my engineers to function. Whatever information that the team needs, the team already has it, or somebody on the team has it. So if you need clarity, you either ask the technical lead or you ask someone else on the team because everybody has everything. Um, and the next part is automate everything. There's some parts you can automate and there's some parts that you cannot automate. But for the ones that you can automate, I would advise that you automate it. And I will give you an example based off this. So I have a friend that's a product manager, right? And I was trying to, I was preparing for this. So I was like, oh, what's your experience with developers? And he says that working with developers is good for him. He's a bit technical, so he understands the language. But the part that he finds frustrating is that they never move their Jira task. And I've had that experience as well. I don't know. It's just I don't know why like it's so hard for you to just go to the board and move your task from in progress to done so that QA can test. Like, why is it so hard? And then I discovered that some of them they just want to write code and that's all that they want to do. Right. I found a way, to automate how to move your task from in progress to done and it should automatically assign it to this person. So what you can do is if they've written the code, they've committed it to this part. Once that code is merged, right, it automatically moves that card to the next column, right? Meaning that the developer doesn't have to go and move it, right? You avoid that all back and forth of, oh, have you moved your card? Have you moved your card? It automatically does that itself. So if you can automate everything. Communicate, don't micromanage anybody. You need to trust people to do their best work. However, you also you need to know people that you need to constantly check up on, but don't micromanage anybody. It's not good for you, it's not good for the team. Trust people to do their work. If you have questions or you feel that someone needs to be doing better, escalate to the person's manager or talk to them. Have a shared vision. If people understand what they are doing better, they would not lie to you, or at least you hope that they won't lie, right? And allow engineers to be involved in decision making and product decisions, but don't overdo it. So if you're in a meeting, at least have like one engineer there to understand what they're talking about. Like it helps them, it drives collaboration and they feel like, yes, you understand me. We're in this together. Like it just helps your team collaboration, right? But don't overdo it. There's some things that they don't need to be there, and engineers don't like plenty meetings. So just put them in the ones that they absolutely need to be there, right? And if they don't have to be there, just talk to them about it after the meeting. That's what I would say. So what do you do in conflict? So I was saying, so some people would ask this question: have you been in a situation where you and somebody on your team did not agree on something? How did you reach a compromise and stuff? So in this case, when you are in conflict with one of your engineers, right, what happens is you need to listen to them first, let them talk. And if you're trying to resolve it, make sure that there's a shared goal. It's not about you, it's not about the engineer, it's about the work that needs to be done, right? You share a goal, you're on the same team, it's already as much as a goal can be. Seek to understand, not just make a point, and then give feedback. Tell them this is what you intended, this is what it looks like, this is what it can improve. You're not there to insult anybody. You're not anybody's manager, but a product manager, not a people manager. So that's what I would say to do. So I'm going to wrap up now. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Awesome, amazing. Thank you very much, Tomisin. We appreciate your it was so fast, and you were just dishing it out, you know thank you very much. If you have questions, please raise up your hands. Let's take questions while Tomisi answers your question. All right, I'm seeing one hand. Juliet NDBC. Hi, Juliet, good evening. You can unmute.
Hi, Blessing. Good evening. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can go with your question.
Okay. The question I want to ask Tomisin is, I heard her saying something about you should not allow engineers be in meetings. Like that is not all the meetings you're having that your engineers should be in. I'm very much new to product management. So I'm just wondering what kind of meetings exactly are you going to kind of exclude them from? Yeah, something like that. And how do you handle someone that already feels that you're a product manager, you don't know anything about coding, so you shouldn't even question him at all? Maybe you found out, for instance, from maybe let's say the head of the development team that this person is lying to you, and you reach out to him and you're like, sorry, but I feel like you're taking so much time on this project. And the person is like, you don't tell me how long I'm supposed to, like, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So how do you go about it? Thank you.
Thanks for that question. I hear two things. The first one is how do you manage um the meetings that engineers are in, right? And the second part is how do you manage someone that is lying to you or think that you don't understand technical concepts. So the first thing I would say for the first one is that it's more like there's some meetings that engineers need to be there. One is like your stand-up meetings. Definitely they need to be there. If you're trying to build a new product, right? You don't need everybody on the team. So that's like at the concept phase when you are still trying to draw their idea. You don't need everybody on the team. You only need one or two people from the team, right? And after that, maybe in brainstorming sessions, everybody needs to be there. Now, in this case, you're streamlining it. So if say marketing, if you're having a marketing meeting, you don't need engineers there, right? So there's some meetings, it's based on your discretion actually. There's no one size fits all answer for that question. Is like you picking the battles. Okay, someone sends a meeting agenda, so a meeting invite and puts the agenda. What does this have to do? Does it have any engineering implication? Does it have product implication? If it does, do I really need an engineer to be there? If not, then I can be the person to attend that meeting and pass that information across. But in some cases where you're trying to add a new feature to your product, right? Say, or you're trying to make an update on an existing feature, it means that an engineer definitely has to be there. So in that case, you add your engineers. The second one, about people about engineers thinking and doing anything about coding. So there are two ways you can go about it. You can go about it the subtle way, you can go about it the fighting way. And I would not suggest you go the fighting way, because if your relationship with engineers or your engineer is damaged, it's going to be very problematic for you at work, right? Because you are going to frustrate that person and that person will want to frustrate you, right? So in this case, right, you need to call that person aside and have a conversation, right? And you have that conversation. Again, and that's why I said that you need to trust people to do their work. You're not the one that will write the code. It's the engineer that will still write the code, right? So call that person aside, have a conversation. I'm not trying to do your work for you. I'm just trying to tell you this is the deliverable I have. And sometimes, again, you need to expose engineers to the pressure that you're facing. Sometimes if they don't understand the pressure that you're facing, they would not function. So sometimes don't expose them to everything. Just let them know that if you mess up, this is what's going to give. You get. Also, you need to escalate. Sometimes there are some problems that you cannot just handle by yourself. And some people are just very difficult to manage. Like, no matter how much you do it the subtle way, you try to be friends with them, you fight with them, some of them are just not very, um, they're not very, they're not easy to understand. Do you get? So if it's not working for you, please by all means escalate it to the head of engineering, HR, because you need to also pick your battles. But that's what we say on that. I don't know if that answers your question. Juliet.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Um.
Okay. We have Fedora Regua. Fedora, please unmute yourself and let's take your question.
Okay, hello, good evening. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, sure. Go on.
Okay, hello, Tomisin, hello, everybody. My question, um, so I'm quite new to product management myself as well, and I've made to understand that designers are also a part of the engineering team. But I found that the designers and the engineers, they kind of don't see eye to eye. So I've had the opportunity to specify requirements for designs, and when I get them back, I'm like, okay, yes, this is what I'm expecting. And then engineering is like, no, these designs can't work. And they don't even give specific reasons why sometimes. How do we handle those kind of situations? Then how do we specify enough? I'm new to product management. How can I specify technical requirements enough so that the engineers don't go doing what you didn't ask them to do in the name of, oh, you didn't say we shouldn't do it this way. Like, how do I handle that kind of issue, please? Thank you.
Okay. So before you unmute, my first question regarding what you first asked is, so typically once design is ready, or when you share the requirement for design, how does it go? Is it that the designer just starts, and once the designer is done, do you have a team meeting where people look at the design and give their feedback? What does that look like at the moment?
Okay, so I've invited the engineers to a few of those design reviews, and yeah, they're like, okay, yeah, this looks good, and then we get to implementation, like we're 2 days down or 3 days down the road, and they're like, nah, this is not working. But they were at the review meetings, and they were required to give their opinions.
Okay.
So I don't really know how to handle it.
And this is typically on the front end team. Am I correct?
Yes, it's a front end issue most of the time. Yes.
Okay, so the first and the reason why I asked that question is typical. I was going to say you should call your engineers into the meeting, right? But in this case you've called them and they didn't give their feedback. The truth is there's sometimes when you know they have to take it as it is. If you told me why something can't work, you need to tell me why. If you told me this is not good, right, you need to tell me why. There's no this cannot work and everybody changes direction. That's not how it works, right? And in this case, maybe you need to drive that home. If you tell me this cannot work, I'm not going to change it. You're going to have to work with it that way, right? And if it's too much for you to handle, you need to escalate, right? So if front end developer A has seen the design, right, and it says that okay, this design can't work. Why can't it work? Is it that it's hard for you to implement? Is it that the user journey is not the best, or there's going to be an infrastructure or architecture problem? Like what exactly it is? Because you need to work with you need to make informed decisions, right? Because if you're also changing the design, you need to report to your stakeholders. Why did you change it? You also need, because you can't say, oh, the engineer said it would not work and I decided to change it. That would not fly. It's just like, wait, why? Like, do you know what you're doing? That's the vibe it gives. So if someone is telling you it can't work, you need to tell me why it can't work. Because if I'm going to speak to other stakeholders, I also need to be able to convince them why, and then also have the designer in that conversation. If the person is unwilling to explain why, then they're going to have to build it that way. Like that's just it. It's either you explain or you go home. The second part, sorry, can you ask your second question again?
Is Fedora still there?
Yeah, she is. Your mic is unmuted if you're speaking. Did anybody get the second question?
I did not even get the second question. Can anyone?
Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay. The second question was, how far do I have to go with technical specifications, like technical requirements? Because I can say, okay, for this screen, this is supposed to do this and this is supposed to do that. And then sometimes I'm having like, it's either extra functionality added or something I wasn't expecting at all. And the reason is, oh, it wasn't specified. I thought it would work fine this way. And then I'm coming to a review and I'm like, okay, magic is happening. So how far do I go with technical requirements? I'm not that technical myself, but what can I do to ensure that I'm getting exactly what I want from
Okay.
the engineers?
Okay, I get a question. So the first thing is, I don't know that PMs are responsible for writing technical specs. It's always the lead developer. But in the case that you have to, again, it's the first thing I would say you should do is, in your user stories or the documentation that you're doing, do you have an acceptance criteria? And the acceptance criteria basically includes your ideal user journey and what should happen when these things aren't there. And that acceptance criteria is just your ideal source of truth. Nobody should be adding or removing anything from the acceptance criteria. That's the first part. The second part is have the alignment meeting. When you share documentation, right? You need to everybody ask questions. When you ask questions, I'm in my meeting. I don't in this meeting. What you're trying to do is like I'm not trying to go into the review and I'm trying seeing one new shiny feature. Why did you put it there? Did you ask if? And the third part would be feedback. If they give you feedback, and they're asking questions, if they're about to add something new, they should inform you first before going ahead with it, right? I mean, it's good that engineers know how to take initiative, but there are some initiatives that you need to get by into and ask questions, right? So if, for example, I've told you design this login page and make it static, and then you design the login page and the page is now flying, I didn't ask you for that. Like, why did you have to do that? You could have asked me first before going ahead with it. So I would say that you should encourage them to ask questions and give feedback. And if it's not something that would work for the product and work for you, you should also discourage them. Like I think you should tell them no, remove it, like G-Get. But if it's something that is good for you and good for the team, it's nice when you take initiative. I've had a couple of engineers do that, right? But I would say that you should have an alignment session before every development cycle starts. Ensure that your acceptance criteria is as clear as day. And when I'm saying alignment session, it means that when you are doing development, you're not adding Maggi, you're not adding salt, you're only cooking the rice the way it should be. Yeah, that's what I would advise. Fedora, does that work?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on LinkedIn and I would answer.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for that one. Before we take the next question, please you can share what you've learned in this session with your networks on LinkedIn at Enoverlab, and you can also tag Tomisin at Tomisin Agbaje on LinkedIn as well. Then you can also tag us on Enoverlab, that's Enoverlab on Twitter, and also tag Tomisin. Handle is Tomisin underscore AG on Twitter and Instagram. So you can just tag tag us to what you've learned from this session. Moving on, we'll be taking Kauta. Kauta, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Okay, Tomisi, thank you for everything you've been saying since morning or since we started the session. Thank you so much. So my question is, you mentioned something about automating tasks and how to change it from to do to in progress and then done. Please,
Yeah.
can you re-explain that part? And then I understand that you have to one has to apply diplomacy to not only product management or managing people in your team and all, but every aspect of life entirely. But sometimes it can be really, 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 really overwhelming, especially with regards to this task issue you mentioned. It's not a big deal to go on Jira. Change from like to do to done or in progress. But find out that a lot of people, especially the engineers, I don't know, and you it seemed like maybe I'm feeling that way because I'm a lady or something. You can't tell them that okay, you've not done this right, or you are supposed to do this, they would be like, they don't want to use it, they don't want to use Jira, they don't want to use any software management app or something, then how do you expect me to keep track? How do you make my work easy if you are not doing what is expected of you to do? I understand diplomacy has to be played in that, but sometimes it's kind of difficult. I don't know if you have other advice you can give with regards to that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So the second part, right? Which is people being responsible and doing what is required of them. So, in as much as developers are adults, they're also children. They are very, I don't know, I would say they're very, some of them, not all. I mean, you work with some developers and they're just perfect. And some is like you have to be dragging with them, right? I would say that they need to understand the consequences of things not being done. Um, and again, it can be as simple as a Jira task. If people don't move their task, you can in a way assign punishments, not punish them. This is you putting consequences in place. So I'll give you an example. Where I work, you have to developers are required to put in their updates on Slack before stand up. So whatever we're talking about on stand up is just me asking questions and asking if they have blockers. So meaning that stand up should not be more than 10 to 15 minutes. And developers were not doing that. Every day we'll come to stand up and I'll be shouting, you have not put your update, you've not put your update. It's frustrating for me because stand up that should have taken 10, 15 minutes is now taking 30 minutes. Why? Do you understand? And in this way, I said, okay, fine. You people don't want to put it right. You come to stand up. The person that didn't put their updates is going to be responsible for the next knowledge sharing session. You people want to write just code, meaning that now you're not just going to write code. You're going to be responsible for um going to do your research, do a presentation to everybody, and tell us what you understood. The second part is you're going to anchor stand up for 1 week. In that case, right, they know next time that if there's a consequence for their action, they're able to move faster. And that's why I said that you need to understand your team dynamics. Sometimes consequences are just really nice. Like it's not every day that I'll be tapping your head and be saying, "Oh, Bayo, are you good? Juliet, have you done this?" No, 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 no. Like we're not here to play. Do you understand? The second part I would say is, you know, sometimes again it sucks, but you sometimes have to be the one to do it. If they told you they've done this, you have to go and move that. Or thirdly, you could just speak to the engineering manager and tie Jira cards to performance. So if you said that it's going to take you 2 hours to complete this task, and after 2 hours, 3 hours, you've not moved your card, it means that you're not doing anything, right? Developers don't like being told that they're not doing anything. They're going to move their task, right? So those are like things that would work, right? Because you can't always be patting people on the head. I would also say that you should expose them to a bit of pressure. If they know how like it's coming in hot, they're able to go and do their part. And that's the truth. Like sometimes we got developers and you don't want them to know anything that's happening. And it's good, right? But they move faster when they know like what's going on, what is at risk. If you don't do what you're required to do at this time, this is what is going to happen. Meaning, if you don't move your Jira task, the stakeholders are going to think that we are not doing anything. People would move their task. Do you get? So, as much as possible, know the way your team members function. If consequences work for them, right? If it's the engineering manager or the technical lead that is going to be pursuing them, let the engineering manager do that. You get? And as much as possible, delegate if this person is good at pursuing, let that person do the pursuing. So if say Juliet did not move her task today, tomorrow Juliet is one that will be pursuing everybody. Do you understand? That's the first part. The second part. The first part that you asked was automation. So for me, I use Jira, right? And there's a part on Jira that allows for automation. So if you want me to show you, you can just send me a message later. I would show you how it works. But in this case, I've already put that once a task goes from to do to in progress, once the code has been merged, let the card move to the next column, meaning that the engineers now don't have to move it. I can't share my screen now to show you because like we're far spent on time, right? And then just message me later, and then I'll take you on it, or you could just check for automations on Jira. I'm not sure what product to you use, but that's what I use. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that one, Tomisin. Let's have you, Monjola Jesu. Benny, you were raising your hand. I don't know if you still have your question, but you can just take one.
Yes, so thank you so much, Tomisin, and I don't know who's anchoring this, but Tomisin, you've done a fantastic job. I really appreciate your insight on product management. So for me, I'm actually transitioning from business analysis to product ownership. Basically, I run my own business, but I have got this, I'm tangled up with, working with developers, engineers, and DevOps, in and out of the country. So there's a lot of culture mix, there's a lot of diversity, and I'm just trying to get a hang of it. So I noticed that a lot of people are asking questions within and not outside because they're external requirements that basically come from the user's research. Um, I notice we're not talking more about it. There are subject matter experts and there are product owners. What's the difference between a product manager, a product owner, and a subject matter expert? Just just my quick posit on this. Thanks.
You're welcome. So, product manager, subject matter expert, and product manager, product owner, and subject matter. Um, they're three different things. But product manager and product owner, they're very similar. Sometimes they use it interchangeably, right? But if I was to explain it in the textbook way, product managers are more strategic, right? They have like an overview of things uh, from a strategic point of view. And making you are responsible for drawing out the vision, what the product is going to look like, the things that you have to put in place, the metrics that you have to track. Product owners is you're owning just a part of the product and you're just doing development. However, in some organizations, product owner and product management, it means the same thing. It just depends on where you are, what the roles and responsibilities have been defined to be, right? That is what I would say on that. Subject matter experts are typically people that you expect have a hang of everything about this particular thing. And product managers don't know everything, right? You do your research and you find out things. I'll give you an example. Where I work, right, there's a payroll product and there's a payroll expert for it, right? Because you know how the configurations work, the taxing works and everything. There's someone that does that. Now, the subject matter expert will be working closely with the product manager and the product owner, right? If there's a product owner or it's just a product manager. So subject matter experts are just, to give a point of view and, validate the product and the idea with. So for example, if I was to build a payroll product, I don't have all the context on how a payroll works and then the taxation part of it. There's a payroll person that has all this context. Now I'm going to be bouncing off ideas and things that we want to do with this subject matter expert because you know better and you know how these things work. And if we build something and we're testing how it's going to work, what we're testing before we push to the market, I'm going to test with the subject matter expert because then again, you are an expert in this particular industry. So for me, those are like the three differences. Product management is not specialized. You get there's some people that are more specialized than the other, but product management is not a specialized role. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. You were asking something about speaking to users. So I don't know the context you're trying to portray or what you meant exactly. You didn't finish that part. Um,
Okay. Okay, so sorry, I had to chip in because I know we're out of time. So
yeah.
for me, I noticed as a product owner or a product manager, ideas usually stem up, I mean, from maybe meetings we have internally with the Devops teams, with the front end and back end. So most of the times, these things are in the ideation stage, right? But we usually, I don't know, if I'm going to create say for instance the CRM, I'm just giving it CRM as a quick one. Usually there should be a part where there's an extensive research like what you just mentioned with a subject matter expert. And then things like the iteration phase, the user requirements, the documentations, they are something that I suspect that should be notes carried out from user research. I mean, how many form clicks, how many form entries do you need to carry out for a journey to be able to access maybe a customer's bank statement? All those things usually, I don't know. Because I've had this back and forth, back and forth experience, and then the engineers are saying, no, this is how it should work. And then the user is saying, no, this is what we expect. And then the product manager is in between. I don't know what kind of clarity you can give to someone like me in such a situation.
Okay, thank you. Quick shout out. Hi from Naya. Hi Lola. So to answer your question, product ideas are not, and if that's what's happening, that should probably be corrected, right? Product ideas don't only come from engineers and the product team, or you're having a stakeholder meeting and then ideas are flying. That's no, like, product ideas should not only stem from these places. Product ideas come from user research and continuous conversations with your users. And sometimes you're not talking to users on the phone or having a meeting. It could be as simple as a support ticket. I'm trying to perform this action. This thing is not working. What do I do? Or you try to perform, or you look into your user data now, how people, the heat map, how people are trying to click on something and it's not working. That's with data now. You're seeing how people are interacting with this. So in this case, you're not just making product ideas should not just be limited to the engineer and the designer or and then the stakeholder, because they're not the users at the end of the day. Ideas are fine on paper and they sound intelligent until you actually build it and somebody has to use it, then there's a problem, right? So in this case, like, if your team is not doing this, you should encourage them to take a look into the user data, which could be on Mixpanel, or it could be through support. Support should also be in these meetings, right? Because they are the ones that are talking to these people more. They are having a lot of interactions with them, right? So that's what I would say concerning that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's take the next question from Angela Jesu. Hi, Angela Jesu. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. Please be sure to look around behind time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Blessing. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Tomisin. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Hi, Mojola Jesu.
All right. First of all, I want to appreciate you for sharing from your experience and from your knowledge. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot. So, this is my question. I noticed that developers don't like to read documents. They prefer you to just probably meet them and have a talk with them and tell them, and then they will reason with you, okay, this is the best way we can do it, and this is the best way. But I don't know if there's a way we can as a PM one can address that issue, that they would go through the document, because the documents are available there, they are shared. We all have shared drive where they can easily access it, but they don't want to go through the document to really understand what this product is for. So I don't know if there's a way that can be done.
Okay, so I think this is a problem that everybody faces. I think all product managers face this problem because I myself have the same thing. Sometimes people, in short, developers don't like reading. Just maybe a handful of them like reading. And this is why I said earlier that there are some times where you need to have meetings and um, explain what is in that documentation and drive alignments, right? But as much as possible, I think that you would have to consciously do that. If they ask you a question, refer them back to that documentation. Once they read that documentation, come back and ask you the question that they have, if they still have it. Because, even documentation, like even as little as emails, they don't read their emails, right? So as much as possible, drive alignments with calls, have team calls, let everybody understand what we want to build, but there's some nitty-gritty that people need to actually read to figure out, right? So as much as possible, encourage them to read it. If they have questions, again, because developers most times have questions, tell them to go and read the documentation. If they don't understand, let them send you a screenshot of the part they don't understand and ask that question. For me, that's what I have done. So if you have a question, what part of the documentation did you read? And if you do not understand, tell me what you don't understand. Some of them will still not do it, but that's like what I've done so far and has worked for me. So maybe you can try that, and if you have any issues, you can send me a text on LinkedIn.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, amazing. We're going to take one more question from Aminat. Aminat, please ask your question. Be short or brief as possible so that we can round up the session.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, Tomisin. Hi, everyone. So, you made mention of having to brainstorm with your developer points, trying to pick up their brains on a product idea or feature idea that you're trying to develop. So, my question is, at what point do you meet with them? Because I'm very much aware that as a product manager, you need to, when there is a product idea, you need to be the one to brainstorm on how the product should work and the acceptance criteria. So at what point do you reach out to the technical team, pick up their ideas also, and to know how exactly the product should work? Secondly is, how do you handle sprint planning? Who are those that are supposed to be in your sprint planning, and what exactly are you meant or do you discuss during sprint planning sessions? So that's all from me.
Okay. So the first one. Okay. So the first one. Sorry. What was the first question again?
So the first question is, at what point do you reach out to the
Okay,
technical?
from brainstorming.
Yes.
So at the point where you know that you want to build something, right? That is when you reach out to or when the idea has been formed, right? You know that you want to solve, say, an Andela for product managers, right? Once you have that idea, right? That's a very good, and you have like your problem statement formed, that's a good time for you to involve your engineers, right? Because, and in this case now, this is, say you don't have an existing product, this is a new product, yeah? So you call them in, you tell them these are the problem areas that we want to solve. How best do you think that should solve? How best should we go about this, and allow people brainstorm. You could also do this when you're trying to draw a journey, or you have a journey in your head that's not been fully formed. You call them in and say, okay, this is what the user journey looks like. What do you guys think? Can I get a feedback? They give you feedback and say this part would not work, this part will work better. So it depends on what you're doing, the stage of the product that you're building, the people that you're speaking with. So for me now, if I sometimes I don't need the entire engineering team if I'm trying to maybe finalize the user journey. I might just need my technical lead. I have a conversation with him and he tells me, okay, this part will work and that part will not work. Sometimes I involve everybody in the team, right? Because they also would be working on it. What do you guys think? And then once we have that conversation, we're able to take it up from there. On that time is I'm trying to build a new product, for example, and then I've already done my user research. These are my problem areas, ease, convenience of use, blah, 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 blah. We come, okay, what do you guys think? What are your ideas? And then after these ideas, obviously, you have to refine them because the ideas are just there. So you have to, work with that. So the second part is for sprint planning. So what do that need to be in your sprint planning? Depends on your company, depends on what you're doing. I would say that the product manager has to be there, all the developers, designers, QA. If you don't have like an entire company DevOps, or you have like DevOps for each team, your DevOps team should be there. A representative from the customer success team should also be there, right? And typically, what would you do in your sprint planning session is talk through what you guys intend to achieve during that sprint. How long would that sprint entail? What does your definition of done look like, right? So you're also going to be explaining what the task breakdown is like, what the user stories are. Those are the things that you'll be doing, and after that, you start your sprint. I hope that's answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Is that
All
all?
right.
We have two seasons up.
Okay, let's have Tosin. I was going to say she should just write her question in the chat box. But then let's just take Tosin as the last question so that we can just round up. Tosin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tomisin, for sharing your experience. My question is, as a first PM and also starting out a new role, what should you be doing within your first 3 months? Because there is usually this expectation of, okay, I want to deliver and all of that. Then, secondly, as a first PM, like being the first product manager in that particular startup, how do you manage communication? Because it's a small team, relatively small team, and most of the information goes through the CEO and stuff. So how do you manage that communication and like be in the middle and like have most of the conversations that engineers have with the CEO come through you instead of it flying over your head and stuff. So yeah, those are my questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So the first one, um, so that's sorry, the second one, which is communication and like your CEO and everything. I would say that, and first of all, like within like your first month is going to be hard to like change that team dynamic, especially if it's CEO, CTO, engineer, right? Because typically these people have like a co-founder relationship, and that's how they've been working, right? But as much as possible, you need to start asking questions and setting yourself into the conversation that they're having. And then ideally they know that, okay, when I'm having this conversation, Tosin, the PM needs to be there, right? Because at that time it helps you understand better and what your work will look like and your deliverables will look like. So that's what I would say. You need to ask a lot of questions. You need to be present at maybe say for the first month, have check-ins at intervals. Like it could be every week, it could be twice a week. It depends on you. It could be before the work day starts. I don't know, just depending on what works for you, right? You have to insert yourself in those conversations. Encourage them to talk on an open channel as opposed to talking in the direct messages, because a lot of context is lost when people are talking privately. So as much as possible, have a group chat, say for the three of you, and just ask, okay, what's going on? What's the goal? Once you ask these questions, right? These things begin to happen. So what should you do in your first 3 months or first month as a PM? The first thing I would say is you should seek to understand. Get to know your team, talk to them, understand team dynamics. Say and you have 5 engineers, speak to them. What does your work currently look like? Understand the processes in place, say for the development team. I understand I get the part where everybody just wants to jump into work and then start working immediately. It's something that happens, right? But sometimes some companies don't function that way. Some people want you to really understand what you are doing before you start work. So as much as possible, be curious, right? Ask questions, go through the product, use it, ask questions, even the stupid questions, you should ask them, right? Speak to all the developers, right? Read as much documentation. As much as possible, you should leverage on the fact that you are new, and that means that you have new perspective. So the things that you are not seeing, or the things that they've not seen, right? The things that they've not seen, you are seeing it. So ask questions based off that. Ask yourself. So it should not just be jump to on that to deliver. You should also be able to understand, because once you understand things, you're able to deliver better, right? So that's what I would say. You should seek to understand, listen in meetings, take notes, know your team, understand the processes that has been laid down. Then once you've done that, you would see gaps that exist, and in a way, once you want to deliver your first, or you want to give your first big win, or you want to get your first win, right? You're able to do better. You're able to do it from an informed point of view, because this is from your experience and what you've seen. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would answer your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much as well to Missing, and welcome to the end of today's product session. It was super packed. It was quite insightful. Thank you very much once again, Tomisin. We appreciate you. I mean, people are rooting for you on our community already. So, yeah, Enoverlab is a product management school. We provide in-depth training and mentorship to aspiring product managers with a structured training approach and, of course, a detailed syllabus. Our students are groomed with the knowledge, skills, and tools to build, manage, and innovate products that will deliver increasing value to users, of course, while also driving business value for organization. And our mission is to empower product talents for today, tomorrow, and the future, of course. So I dropped some links. No, I didn't drop some links. I dropped just one link, and that's the link to Enoverlab community. So you can check the chat box and click on the link. We have a community where we share ideas, we discuss, we ask questions, regarding product management. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining this product session. Before we end the session, before we end the session, I would like to I think Olabanji came in. So hi Banji, good evening. Is Banji here? Can Banji hear me? Oh, okay. Banji he's not, I don't know, maybe Banji does not want to talk to me, right? Okay, so guys, let's not forget to tag Enoverlab at ENOVERLAB on Twitter and on on LinkedIn. And you can also tag Tomisin Agbaje on LinkedIn and Tomisin_AG on LinkedIn. Just share what you have learned. Let us all let other people learn from your tweets as well. Thank you everyone. I can see the chat box. Thank you very much. So we would also at the end of this session take a picture. So we would be required to turn on our video and let's see our faces, let's smile for the camera so we can make a video and of course take some shots of pictures. So I don't know if Banji is ready. Hi Banji, how are you? Hey, yeah, Mati, you're just joining us. Incredible.
No, yes.
Okay, you've been here. Okay, sorry. All right, sorry. Banji, can you hear me? All right. All right. Since Banji is not here, please let's turn on our cameras so that we can see our faces and take some pictures. So yeah, everybody turn your camera.
What happened to Jenny?
Turn on your camera. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was trying to get my help me with my generator. Hi guys. Okay. All right. Hi everyone. Good evening. Hi Tomisin. Yeah, I think I'm muted.
Hi, good evening. No, you're not muted.
Okay. Okay, hi Tomisin. Good evening. How are you doing? Thank you so much for the conversation you've had with us today. Very, very explicit. And I think you talked about quite a lot of interesting things that you shared with us today. And I also like that you went deep into the details, and I really appreciate this personally. Thank you so much. And I believe that everyone on the call has been able to learn one or two things, in short, multiple things, even for myself that have experience. I think I picked out some things from the things that you shared with us this evening. Thank you so much, Tomisin. So I think without further ado, we can call it a night. So Blessing, over to you for the picture thing.
Oh, so we've not taken picture. Incredible. Okay, everybody, let's turn on our cameras so that we can have our picture. Right. Banji, I hope you're taking pictures as well.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're
Okay.
supposed to say
All
cheesy.
right.
Yeah, what are
Thank
we
you
supposed
all.
to say precisely?
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you
Thank you so
very
much,
much.
everyone. It was a pleasure having this conversation, and I believe that you have learned one or two things. And so I think one thing that I wanted to chip in is that I think over the next couple of weeks, we're also going to have consistent sections like this where we're going to be having um, experienced PM come to share different ideas all through the month of July. I think next week we have the privilege of having a very experienced product manager. I think Moshe. Moshe is an Israeli and is an experienced PM who has, I think, more than 20 years of experience doing product management, right? And we have the privilege of him coming to speak with us next week, Saturday. Yes, Moshe. Where's that flyer? So Moshe is going to be talking to us next week, Saturday, about how to break into product management from non-tech background. I think a lot of people have been asking this question around, break into tech from non-tech, break into product management from non-tech background. Maybe you don't have an engineering background, or you don't understand anything about tech, but you want to come into product management. So we have the privilege of having Moshe next week, Saturday. I think same time. I think it's the same time that we're going to be having that conversation next week by 6 p.m. Yes, I think 6 p.m. with Moshe next week. So trying to even look for the flyer somewhere here. Then I think the upper week can have a senior PM from Max, I think Undukwe, Bukwe, and then the next week we have from Naya, and I think the other next week we have Kendi Ulukoga from Pemira, MFB, Microfinance Bank. So we have a list of conversations we'll be having over the next 6 to 7 weeks, all the way through to August. And I implore you to join these conversations to expand your mind, because they'll be talking about different ideas, different product management ideas that would help you, understand this path that you are in, help you ease your transition process, help you make it easier for you to. There's a lot of things that you probably see online when it comes to product management, and you might probably not understand these things because maybe they are being shared by a foreigner or an Oyinbo person, right? And it's going to make sense for you to be able to relate to people that a fellow Nigerian like yourself, someone who is practicing, and then they share some of these ideas with you, and then it becomes a whole lot more relatable, because now you can be able to hear from another person like you who is currently on the career path, and it helps you just learn better. So thank you so much, everyone. I don't know why I cannot find the flyers. I'm trying to navigate my laptop. My laptop is my market. But yeah, we'll just drop it in the community chat or in the community group on WhatsApp for those in the community group. So you can join the community group, and then some of these flyers will be sent in. See you all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and happy new month to you all once again. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Tomisin. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everybody.